Did you know that our government waited 5 weeks after Jeffrey Epstein's arrest to raid his island, and that during that time, the employees of his island conducted a massive cleanup operation, complete with massive construction projects and remodeling of the interiors of the buildings on the island? Additionally, the raid on his New York residence did not have a seizure warrant to go with it. The police just showed up, took pictures of stuff, left, and then when they came back 2 days later with a proper warrant, all of the stuff they had taken pictures of was gone. So we have none of that. This is part of a broader pattern of law enforcement to not gather evidence and not prosecute Jeffrey Epstein that we can see going all the way back to 2008, when the search warrant that the police had to raid his Palm Beach residence at the time was extremely narrow and specific, saying you can only look here, you can't look there. Very, very weird that this one person, this one guy, Jeffrey Epstein, has had so much leeway when it comes to law enforcement. We're going to get into all these things today that the media never tells you about, because if you watch a mainstream media documentary on Jeffrey Epstein, it's all about his individual sex crimes. It's not about the people that he potentially blackmailed. It's not about how the government and law enforcement agencies protected him throughout his entire life. But that's the big story. That's what everyone cares about. Nobody really cares about his individual sex crimes. Whatever. It's known. What's not known is how he was able to get away with it for so long. So first, the cleanup operation that happened on his island. After Jeffrey Epstein was arrested, which, just to give you a timeline of events, Epstein was arrested on July the 6th. The FBI raid didn't take place until August 12th. Okay? That's 5 weeks after his arrest, before the FBI raid on his private island takes place. So what goes on there during that time? Well, luckily for us, a citizen of the U.S. Virgin Islands started a YouTube channel called Rusty Shackelford. Okay, Rusty Shackelford went down to Epstein's island almost every day and shot four minutes or so of drone footage. He just flew his drone around the island so we can actually see what was happening during that time. And if you guys are curious, all 3.5 hours of Rusty Shackelford's original drone footage I have on my YouTube channel with commentary from me that I will throw up now for you up there, and I'll put down in the description below. Some notable things that happen. The infamous temple building. We can see scaffolding and other construction equipment inside of it just days after Epstein's arrest. Also note the dirty used mattress in there. Makes you wonder what this temple was actually used for, because there are other residences on this island that are much better accommodations than this little shack here. There is a trash dump on the island that fills up with a massive amount of trash right after his arrest. Okay, a huge influx of trash right after Jeffrey Epstein's arrest. And we actually see this dump later in the film, and it is much more cleaned up. So that shows us this isn't just a, the cleanup operation on Epstein's island. It's not just a, let's throw away some bed sheets and some hard drives. And no, this is like, this place was bugged to high heaven, had probably all sorts of surveillance equipment, all sorts of stuff they had to get rid of. I mean, they completely gutted this place. All right. And also, one of the only windows that we can see into his residence on the island, we can see it goes through a complete remodel. They have blue painter's tape up in there. They've got dehumidifiers. They've got shop vacs. Okay, they completely remodeled and painted his kitchen. They painted it. Well, you see the blue painter's tape in there, and then that same window. It's so ironic in the drone footage over his island. We can actually see the FBI agents from the FBI raid inside that room. So it's like that room that went through a complete remodel. We see these FBI agents standing in. I mean, those FBI agents could probably smell the fresh fucking paint in that room. They could probably see the fresh paint, the fresh remodel that had just happened as they're standing in there. Okay? So all of this just goes to show, and I'll say this probably several times throughout this video, people want to say the government's not releasing Epstein evidence. People want to say that we're not releasing the Epstein list and all this stuff. We never collected it. All right? We never collected this evidence. The FBI, the New York State Police, the district attorney in New York, there's been a huge effort to not collect evidence on Epstein throughout his entire life. We can see on July the 25th, 2 or 3 weeks after Epstein's arrest, the employees on his island get a delivery of a shipping container with pallets inside of it that they're unloading. We can see people that are supervising this unload. Most of the people that work on Epstein's island are black. A lot of people in the U.S. Virgin Islands are black people. The supervisors out there are these old, white, gray-haired men. Okay, these guys that look like fucking FBI or CIA agents. They got the stereotypical DB Cooper disguise with the ball cap and the sunglasses. Okay, they're out there supervising this unload, probably supervising this cleanup operation that's happening on Jeffrey Epstein's island. It just makes you wonder too, what all went on at this island before the FBI raid that we don't see, right? Because this drone footage is like a couple minutes. It's not even every day for the 5 weeks between his arrest and the FBI raid. It's like just a few minutes every few days. We don't really get a good picture of exactly everything that happened, but I mean, we see enough. You want my opinion on Epstein's island? This island is extremely developed. When Epstein first bought it, it had like a house on it and there was a lot of woods. It was pretty wild. We can see in that drone footage, as we look at all the buildings and all the development on this island, Epstein would have spent millions and millions of dollars developing this island. I mean, he's got multiple different houses, different guest houses, cabanas. He's got roads. He's got landscaping. He's got rocks. There's fucking benches everywhere, like little scenic benches. There's parking areas for the side-by-sides that people ride around on. This island, and it took me, when I first made the Epstein Island drone footage video, I didn't realize it at the time, but this island was actually a resort. It was a like Sandals Resort. This was a sex resort that he ran. Okay, just look at his email address. One of his most prolific email addresses that's out there in the public is jeevacation@gmail.com. Those are his initials, JEE, Jeffrey Edward Epstein. Okay, a JEE vacation. It's telling people when they email that email address, they're going on a Jeffrey Epstein vacation. All right, that's why he could afford all of that development on the island. That's why he could afford to put all those buildings out there. Because at first, and there's employees too. He's got maintenance employees. He's got house cleaners. He's got landscapers. I mean, there's multiple people that work on this island. Okay, he was generating his own power. He had a diesel generator that powered all of his buildings. This generator would have been running 24/7. Sucking up diesel fuel. You can't run an operation like that and develop something like that just for yourself. All right, it's not economically feasible. This guy was running a resort where people would pay him, politicians, movie stars would probably pay him tens of thousands of dollars to go down to this place and, engage in sex acts. Some legal, some not legal, who knows? But that's what this was. This island wasn't just his private island. No, it was a sex resort. I am almost 100% sure. I mean, we can't say, I guess, 100%, but, if it looks like a pumpkin and it smells like a pumpkin and it feels like a pumpkin, it's probably a fucking pumpkin, right? Moving on to other uncollected evidence of the Jeffrey Epstein saga. Right after Epstein was arrested in 2019, he was arrested on the tarmac of a New Jersey airport. So he lands his airplane, he's arrested, and his plane is searched right away. Whatever was on his plane, they were able to seize. When the police go to his house, he had one of the largest residences in Manhattan. The police show up to that residence. They don't have a seizure warrant. I've never heard of this. Never in my life have I heard of this. The police don't have a seizure warrant. Okay? So they just show up, get into his house, they take pictures of stuff. They take pictures of a box of hard drives that has evidence tape around them. Like, evidence tape is anti-tamper tape. It's tape that you put around things that you can see if somebody opens it. So Epstein had hard drives, a box of them with evidence tape around them that he placed there. He put that evidence tape on there. They don't have a seizure warrant, so they just take pictures of it. Okay? They found a safe in his house that had a passport from the 80s that listed a fake, it was an Australian passport that listed a Saudi Arabian address for him. Okay? They just took pictures of all this stuff and then they left. I've never heard of that. Never in my life have I heard of them going to a criminal's house, taking pictures of shit, leaving, coming back, and it being gone. This is like a special thing just for Epstein. And by the way, the people in charge of that raid need to be brought to Congress under oath to testify about it. What was on those hard drives? We will never know. What other evidence could have been in that house? We will literally never know. We didn't collect it. Same thing with his island. They do a massive cleanup operation on his island, and then the FBI raid takes place. Okay, his three other those are 2 out of his 5 residences: New York residence, island. There's 3 more. Okay, there's Zorro Ranch in New Mexico. There is his Palm Beach residence. And there is a house in Ohio that he bought from Leslie Wexner. All 3 of those residences were never searched. Imagine that. You know, when you watch these drug movies, you know, like Scarface or Blow or whatever, and you see police raids taking place, it's like they'll show you on the movie where it's like the house gets raided and the place of business gets raided and the friend gets raided all at the same time. That's how these FBI raids usually go. They raid every piece of property associated with you all at once, all within minutes. Usually it's minutes of each other to make sure that you don't, you know, oh, hey, we just got raided. You need to clean up. Okay, cool. No, with Epstein, there's like a maximum effort to not collect evidence here, which is unprecedented. And it's amazing that the media never talks about this. It's amazing that the Hulu or the Netflix documentary is called Jeff Epstein, Filthy Rich. It's like 3 or 4 hours long. Never a word about this. Never a word about this cleanup operation. Never a word about all this hidden evidence that's deliberately not collected. I mean, it blows me away that, like, you're probably hearing this from me for the first time, some fucking obscure YouTuber, right? Isn't that crazy? Don't you think that's a little bit crazy? If you think that's crazy, comment down below and let me know your thoughts on this. For sure, like the video and subscribe to the channel. I would really, really appreciate it. Going back in time a little bit to 2008 was Epstein's first real run-in with law enforcement. Okay, this is the infamous case so he was arrested in 2018 and he was charged. The terms of that deal were so good that it was illegal. That's what blew the whole case open on Epstein in 2019 was people finally found out what happened in 2008. They saw the terms of this. It's called a non-prosecution agreement. They saw the terms of this non-prosecution agreement and they realized it was so good it was illegal. This would have been the Miami Herald was largely responsible for this, and Virginia Giuffre, one of the lead Epstein accusers. The Miami Herald and Virginia Giuffre just stayed on this story, and it eventually got so big they couldn't ignore it. Some interesting things about this non-prosecution agreement. First, the agreement precedes the terms of the deal with the phrase, "The interests of the United States will be served with the following procedure." This is very unusual language for a non-prosecution agreement. Usually, NPAs will use language like, "in the interests of the victims," or "in the interest of justice," like, you know, protecting the victims, or interest of justice would be like if he's become a snitch, he's turned state evidence. The interests of the United States is very, very weird legal language to put here, and it just makes you wonder, what does the United States have to do with a pedophile living in Palm Beach, Florida? This might be like a little Easter egg put in there so that people that would read the agreement would know kind of why this agreement was happening. This NPA was not public knowledge for a long time. It was sealed. The records of it were sealed. Some other interesting things about the agreement. They had multiple witnesses. They had over 30 witnesses that all were corroborating each other's stories, all talking about how Epstein was engaged in sex acts with people that were underage, okay? And there was no need to make any sort of deal with him, all right? You might say, well, he had money, he could hire good lawyers. You know what? R. Kelly has money. R. Kelly could hire good lawyers, and he's in jail for like 20 to 30 years on similar charges, okay? It does not matter how much money you have and what kind of lawyers you can hire when they have that much evidence, when they have you so dead to rights, so pinned down that a jury can 100% convict you without any sort of reasonable, reasonable doubt. It doesn't matter how rich you are. There's no need to make a deal with Epstein. When the reason prosecutors make a deal with people is because they think, well, maybe there's only an 80% chance or an 85% chance that we get a conviction. So let's make a deal. Instead of serving 20 years in prison, here, you'll serve 15 years in prison. That's the idea that prosecutors use for making deals, okay? Epstein, there's no need to make a deal with him. They got him. They got him dead to rights. They got this guy by the short and curlies. They got him by the Epsteins, okay? No need to make a deal. But what they do is they take a man who should have spent 30 years in prison or the rest of his life. The 30 years would be minimum. Likely the rest of his life in prison. They make a deal where he serves 13 months in a private wing of a Palm Beach County jail. Also, by the way, huge difference between county jail and state prison and federal prison. All right, county jail is like you're just in there with people that like have too many parking tickets or whatever, just bullshit crimes. That's where he goes. He should have gone to federal prison, federal pound me in the ass prison with the murderers and the rapists and the gangbangers. That's where he should have been. But no, he's in Palm Beach, okay, which is like probably Palm Beach County Jail is probably not anything like your county jail. It's probably one of the most tame county jails out there. 13 months in a private wing of the Palm Beach County Jail, which, by the way, I don't know if you've ever heard this. He had them install a hot water tap in his jail cell. In his jail cell, he convinced the police and the COs to install a hot water tap. So Lord Epstein could have hot water in his jail cell. Imagine that. I mean, when you go to jail, the police, the COs, they don't care about you at all. But somehow Epstein, this guy, is able to convince them to install a fucking hot water tap for him. I mean, it's just ridiculous. The more you dive into this and the more you see all this stuff that's happened, it just blows your mind. It's retarded to the nth degree. While he's in jail for 13 months, he's allowed work release 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. He's allowed to hire his own private security so that Palm Beach County police officers don't have to follow him. He's allowed to go to his work. He's allowed to do whatever he wants. I mean, the terms of this deal are so unprecedented. The FBI, what happened is when the Palm Beach County detectives realized how big this investigation was, how many witnesses, how much would be involved in gathering all this evidence, they called the FBI in because they didn't have the resources to conduct a proper investigation. The FBI puts together in 2008 a 53-page indictment. 53 pages, okay? Like I said, they had him dead to rights, which, by the way, they named an entire operation after it. FBI Operation Leap Year. Do you know how bad you have to mess up to get the FBI to name an operation after you? Okay? And by the way, this 53-page indictment, Operation Leap Year, never released to the public. Or what has been released, the indictment's never been released. Some of the documents related to it have. They are heavily redacted. I mean, just page and page and page of redactions, where it's like a big thing of redactions and then the word "the" and then more redactions. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Okay, that's some evidence that we can have. You know, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel come out and they say, we're not going to release child abuse images. Okay, the 53-page indictment the FBI put together, that's not anything to do with child images. You could go ahead and release that and it would be fine. You could blurt out victims' names. It'd be fine. But they still haven't done that, of course. The search warrant that the police used in 2008 was extremely narrow. It was like, usually when you have a search warrant, it's broad. You can search anything in anyone's house. No, this was like, you can go in this room. You can look in this drawer. You can go here. You can't look over here. You can look over here. It was just so incredibly narrow. Yeah, I've never seen anything like it. During this time, Epstein's butler, his houseman, had it's called a little black book. It was Epstein's address book, his contacts book. Some people call this a client list. It's not necessarily a client list. It's just everyone he was associated with, which is very interesting. I will link it down below if you want to check it out. It's very, very cool if you're into going down Epstein rabbit holes to see all the people he was associated with. I mean, there's Donald Trump, of course, the Saudi crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman. I mean, just all movie stars, all sorts of people are in there. That book was given, I think Epstein's butler tried to sell it, or he somehow leaked it to the press. I don't know. But Epstein's butler, for leaking that book, received a longer jail sentence than Jeffrey Epstein did for the actual crimes. For Jeffrey Epstein's sex crimes, underage sex crimes that he committed, he got a lesser sentence than the butler did for releasing a address book to the public. That just shows you, that's what I mean by just such a concerted effort by the U.S. government, by the FBI, to not release evidence, to not collect evidence on Jeffrey Epstein. And by the way, this is a famous quote too from the U.S. District Attorney of Florida at the time, Alex Acosta, when he was going up for, I think, Labor Secretary nomination. The Trump cabinet was questioning him. This came up, this non-prosecution agreement of Jeffrey Epstein's from this time. They said, why did you give Epstein such a lenient sentence? And he said, well, I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone. Acosta has never confirmed or denied he said that, but it's been widely reported. So, and I mean, what other reason do you have for allowing him to clean up his island, for not gathering evidence at his New York residence, for giving him such a sweetheart deal? I mean, what other explanation is there? Besides, one of two things. I can tell you this safely. One of two things. Either A, he was an intelligence asset, either CIA or more likely joint CIA Mossad, okay? Either that, or he had blackmail material on extremely well-connected high-up politicians, okay? Or both. Likely both, because there's no other reason to not, I mean, prosecutors and law enforcement, it's their job to prosecute crimes. It's like what they do. They go home and they think about prosecuting crimes. They wake up in the morning and they think, I'm going to nail some criminals. Prosecutors, it's their goal to put you in jail for as long as possible. It's like what they live for. It's like they go and they talk to other prosecutors about how many lives that they've ruined by I mean, okay, shouldn't say that, but they really enjoy punishing people. It's like what they do. It's like what they get their rocks off on, okay? And for them to not do this to Epstein, it blows my mind. Blows my mind. Going into his intelligence connections here, there's a few things that are pretty interesting. Number one, Epstein's first job was a high school math teacher, okay? He got that job. He was underqualified for it. They could have had pretty much anyone they wanted. It was a prestigious private school. Epstein didn't have a college degree, any teaching experience. He gets the job from a man named Donald Barr, all right? Donald Barr is the dad. Donald Barr was a member of the OSS, which is the precursor agency for the CIA. Donald Barr is the father of William Barr, who was the New York District Attorney at the time when Epstein was prosecuted in 2019. He actually became the District Attorney pretty much just in the time window to prosecute Epstein. Almost like William Barr was put there just to prosecute Epstein. Just for that one little narrow time window when Epstein was going to trial. Here's this fat fuck, William Barr, that gets put in there. Son of the man who gave Epstein his first job, okay, Donald Barr. Also, Donald Barr wrote a very weird book called Space Relations about a society run by pedophiliac elites. Okay, it was in a genre called Pulp Fiction. which, by the way, most people don't know this. Epstein was a fan of Pulp Fiction, and he told one of his friends that the Pulp Fiction book, The Man from Orgy, made him the man he was today, made him live the life that he was living prior to his arrest. What that book, it was about a guy who worked for an intelligence agency, who went around the world blackmailing people for that intelligence agency. That's what this book was about, that he said shaped him to be the man that he became. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. You cannot make this stuff up. It's crazy. Digging a little deeper into his intelligence connections, he met with Ehud Barak, the former Israeli prime minister, 30 times after his 2008 conviction for procuring a minor for prostitution. After all of that came out, after it was known in the public sphere who Jeffrey Epstein was and what he was about, Ehud Barak, the former Israeli prime minister, meets with Jeffrey Epstein 30 times. Now, at first, Ehud said, well, I didn't know, or he made up some stupid excuse. He said, well, I barely knew him and blah, blah, blah. Then, this is interesting. You won't find this anywhere on any mainstream news. I think Al Jazeera reported on it. An Iranian-backed hacking group hacked into Ehud Barak's emails from a certain time period, and what those hacked emails show, again, not reported on by the mainstream media, they show that Epstein and Ehud Barak had significant business ties. Like, they weren't just friends, they were actively working on building their sphere of influence and business deals and this and that. They had an intimate financial and business relationship. Okay? So a lot of people think that Ehud Barak, and if you read those emails, I don't know how familiar you guys are with email culture, but between a boss and a subordinate, there's usually you can usually tell who the boss is and who the subordinate is by how they're talking to each other. It's clear in those emails Barak is the boss. Okay, Barak is short with his responses. It's quick responses, LOL, cool, sent from my iPhone, whereas Epstein is being much more professional. Okay, so a lot of people think that Ehud Barak was Jeffrey Epstein's Mossad handler. Now, I should point out, there is no direct evidence that Epstein worked for Mossad besides his relationship with Barak. You could just say they're friends. There's no evidence Epstein worked for intelligence. There is a mountain of circumstantial evidence that we have, but there's no direct evidence, there's no testimony, there's no documents that show it. I just need to say that just for clarity's sake. But I think it's also clear that now that you can see how much evidence on Epstein was not collected, we can see pretty much the evidence that was collected that people are screaming at the government to release. That's evidence that Epstein allowed to be collected. That's evidence that people in his sphere said, all right, we can show this to law enforcement. They picked and chose what showed up in those FBI files. Okay, so just want to point that out. Also, one more point on the Israeli connection with Epstein here. That little black book that I mentioned, his contact book, if you dive really deep into it, he's got listings for local FedEx office. He's got a section that says FedEx, and in there he has a few local FedEx offices. I think Paris is one. He has the Johannesburg, South Africa FedEx office's direct line. Now, why is that important? Because Israel and South Africa worked together to make an atomic weapon back in the 1970s. Most people don't talk about this. It's not very well known. I mean, here's the Wikipedia page for it. I mean, as we can see, it's not very big, but basically Israel was such a small country, they couldn't do a nuclear detonation on Israeli soil. It would have blown up half the country. So they worked with South Africa because South Africa had space and they could blow up nuclear weapons down there. So Israel and South Africa together made an atomic weapons program, South Africa relinquished it after the when Nelson Mandela came in and the apartheid. Israel obviously has not relinquished their nuclear weapons, but there are ties between South Africa and Israel, and this one little snippet in Epstein's Black Book shows a window to that. Very interesting. Guys, if you enjoyed this Epstein Gate mini documentary, please subscribe to the channel. I've got more coming. This is going to be part 1 of a several part series. I don't know how many, but subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it. Like the video, and we'll see you on the next one.